I read some of the sayings from Zen Master Musangsa. Sometimes he says like, this story or this movie, the direction is not clear or like have no direction. Yeah, I just wonder what is that means.
He said he read somewhere Sun Tzu sometimes would talk about a movie that we would see, and he'd say, "Oh, this story had no direction," something like that. Actually, I never saw Sun Tzu go to a movie in Korea. But in America, and sometimes when we travel, if we had a free day, he liked to go to the movies. So maybe he was learning about Western culture by looking at some movie. Also, I thought he kind of kept us busy for about 2 hours and we weren't bothering him because we're enjoying some movie. But it was always very interesting because sometimes we'd ask him afterwards, "Oh, what do you think about this movie?" And he'd have something very interesting to say. Like one time he liked action movies because he said drama or comedy is too much talking and he doesn't know what's going on. But action, you can pretty quickly tell good people, bad people, and what's happening, you know. And one time we went to see this movie called The Contract. I think it was with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's like a cop, and he's fighting criminals. And, it's just an action movie. And afterwards, we asked Sung San Sinima, "What do you think of this movie?" And San Sin goes, "This movie, not correct." And so, "What do you mean, not correct?" He said, "This man always win, not possible." Then he had seen the movie Rocky, the boxing movie. He said, "This movie more correct. Win, lose, lose. Much suffering, but try, then win. That's correct." So he was kind of always looking for this thing that was closer to life, where something, some story that actually you could get something from for your life. And there was one period of time when we were living in a Korean temple in Los Angeles. And whenever we had our own little house, but it was part of the Korean temple, and we did our own practice. And in the mornings, the temple and the Zen Center, we practiced separately. In the evening, we'd go to the temple Dharma room and chant together, our style. And then the Korean monks would stay usually and do Kida. We'd go back to the Zen Center and do sitting. And many times the Bolsonims came to the Zen Center and sat with us. And on Sundays, when Zen Master Sung San was in Los Angeles, of course, he would give the Dharma talk at Sunday rice offering for the Koreans, and we had to go. He'd tell us, "You must come." And we'd sit in the back of the room, and it was always kind of cool. It was my first taste of Korean culture. Inside the meditation room, inside the Dharma room, were all the Bolsonims chanting. The husbands mostly stayed in the parking lot, leaning against the cars, smoking cigarettes and talking to each other. And the kids ran back and forth. And I was really struck that the kids could just come in the Dharma room and go out anytime as long as they were quiet. In fact, one time, Sun San Sini was standing in the front giving a talk with the stick. He wasn't sitting, he was just standing. But this 5-year-old just kept walking around him the whole Dharma talk. And everybody just let the kid do it. Nobody said anything. In the Western churches and stuff, no way they'd let you do that. So I sort of enjoyed watching this. They're very relaxed with the kids. And I remember one time, I guess he was saying something like, you, in Korean, later we'd ask him, "What did you talk about?" He said, "You Korean people have Buddhism 1,700 years. He called us big noses. I think it was sort of Korean slang for white people or something. He said, "These big noses have only been practicing a couple years, but they already more correct practicing than you." And he'd point to us and everybody turned around and looked and we're all sleeping in the back of the room against the wall. And then we'd, of course, eat the Korean lunch with everybody. And I remember that day at lunch, he came over to us and he said, "Don't sleep, everybody watching you." And we're like, sorry. But after he'd hang out and talk with the Koreans for a while, he'd always come up to the Westerners and said, "Okay, we go to movie." And we'd go downtown to a Chinese movie theater and watch kung fu movies with Musangsa. And I realized that was also his excuse to get away from the Korean people who were always bringing him their personal problems. He'd like talk for a little bit and then, I have to go out with the big noses or something. And the Kung Fu movies were very inspiring because it was like, I don't know now, but the old ones from like the 1970s, whether they win or lose, Omitofo, that means Amitabha. It's like, when we're in the Buddha hall, the altar to the left, that's Amitabha, and that's where you pray for the dead. So anytime anything happened, positive or negative, in the movie, everybody just, Omitofo. And that was kind of cool because we were chanting Kwanzaa Boso. And it was like, don't check the situation, just return to this point. And it also, the Kung Fu movies gave you this try-mind too, And so Musangsa would use these movies, also enjoyment, everybody liked it, and maybe he's learning stuff about the culture, and he'd make some teaching always about it too. So yeah, that was also using every situation to, keep a clear mind and do our way, which is help others. So he helped us both with giving some entertainment. Sometimes he said, sometimes good time necessary. He'd always say, a good situation's a bad situation, bad situation's a good situation. Many times you don't even practice till something bad's happening. Then, once your life's a little less suffering, you stop practicing because, it's better already. And then when you suffer again a lot, you come back. But he even said, sometimes good situation, a little bit is necessary. So he'd give us that, but then he'd show you some teaching in it. It was kind of fun to see these everyday life things become teaching. Once we were all at a Chinese restaurant in Boston. I was a pretty new student. And they brought a fresh pot of hot tea. And it happened to be in front of me, and Musangsa lifted his cup. And when I went to pour it, I didn't realize how full it was. And the tea shot over his cup and went on his hand. And it was really hot because it had just arrived. And he went, like this, And I said, sorry, sir, sorry. And nothing. And then later in the meal, he was pouring tea for everybody. And when he came to me, I didn't hold up my teacup. I just held out my hand. And he just looked at me and said, not possible. And then poured it in the teacup. And that also hit me, because one of the big motivating factor of human beings is revenge, and he didn't have that at all. Even cause and effect, he wasn't going to do that. So that's many little things that would appear that you kind of hit your mind. He also told us that his teacher, Dae, who's on the right side of that picture in the back, didn't talk much. But he said every once in a while he'd do something that really hit Dae Sansinim's mind. So this, there's so many ways we can learn. Even Bopwasanim talking about watching a roommate and learning from that, and her own experience suddenly understanding her mother who died like 35 years ago. That's what. And my mom, I'm only 1 week and getting better. My mom was 2 years sick. So every situation can give us good teaching. And it's not like you have to look for the teaching. If your practice is becoming constant, it's automatic. It's just you, that's the way you begin to see things, and you catch things and learn something from them. Other questions? Somebody.
Well, Boston spoke about sort of seeing signs that her body was becoming sick, but sort of ignoring them until she collapsed.
My hearing's not good. Having some signs about being sick, but then ignoring it till she collapsed.
Yeah.
That's her style.
At what point is it important to listen to your body, or is it important to collapse?
That's called checking. Don't check. And then it becomes clear by itself. You know, it really helped me once when I read, Bodhidharma said, everyone who has a body will have suffering. So that's it. You're going to have suffering sometimes. So, is it bad suffering, or should I listen to maybe my body's telling me to lay down. What's my body telling me? Maybe you can get an app and on your phone, and the app will say, "Oh, you better lay down, boy, or your heart's gonna be beating more than the average." Don't check. That's checking. So take that away. Yeah. We used to joke. Sansanim would say, "Just enough." Buddha said, practicing is like tuning a guitar. If the string is too loose, the sound is bad. If it's too tight, the string snaps. But Sansanim used to, I always felt his middle way was way beyond our hardest trying, that was his middle way. So I think he cranked things back a little bit for us. So he didn't just, everybody didn't die. But you don't know what's enough until sometimes you do too much. So just try, and then you learn. Yeah. But if you're always like, "Oh, am I sick now? Oh, no, I can do a little more." Actually, when you're 100% sick, you don't worry at all because it's completely clear. You don't have to think about it. You can't do anything. The problem is when you start to get better. Oh, I think I can get up now, but then maybe I'm going to get sick again, or I need a little more rest. You just want to take away that checking. If it means sometimes doing too much, no problem. Then eventually you won't check. Checking will always get you into trouble. Should I break up with this girl or shouldn't I? No, of course, I think I should, but then, it's fun. And then 3 or 4 years later, she's pregnant and have a good time. Then it doesn't matter, you break up or not, you got a problem. So don't check. One way to take away checking is decide to do something and do it. If you're going to do 3,000 gates a day, do it. One time, Sansanim decided that we all needed to bow more. He had been in Poland and Solidarity had appeared. It was like 1980 or 81. And he saw something's changing. Something's changing in this communist capitalist world. And so he came back, and that's when he started teaching Sun Yu also. And he said, now this world changing faster, faster. So if we cannot cut our thinking, become one with the universe, and change together with this world, then many suffering. So just sitting, very difficult, cut your thinking. So he started teaching Tanchen Ho practice, Tanchen Ho breathing and this, and he started telling people to do more bowing. But of course, he started to do more bowing. And one time he told us, so he said, first I tried 1,000 bows every day. He'd get up in the middle of the night, around midnight. And then after a few days, I thought, not enough. So he did 1,500. And then after a few days, he thought, not enough. So he did 2,000 for a few days. And then he thought, not enough. And so he did 2,500 for a few days. And then he told us, then he thought, too much. And he went back to 1,500, and he did that for a few years. And then at some point, he cut down to 1,000 a day. And eventually, he couldn't do it anymore. His body just wouldn't do it. But yeah, so even Zen master, Buddha too, you know. Buddha was like eating like 1 grain of rice a day. And the pictures of Buddha and the statue is he's skin and bones. You can see from the front his spine, you know. But what's beautiful is he's very focused. He doesn't look, yeah, he's focused. He's not smiling and, you know, constant bosa, very stuff. No, his cheeks are all, but he's very focused. And one day, this woman thought that he was the tree god. And she would come out to the tree sometimes and pray, and then she saw him, this emaciated person with this total meditation focus, and she thought the tree spirit has appeared. So she made this rice milk, and she gave it to her servant to take there and offer it to him. And he drank it. And his other 5 practicing friends thought, he's breaking our practice, and they left. And he said after he drank that, he had this dream, even while he was sitting, about his mother, and he crawled down to the river they were next to, and he washed himself, and when he came out, he realized the middle way. You know, he realized my willpower is so strong that I can continue this way, but I'll just die. So I won't have realized what the true nature of things. So he found the middle way. So he also went too far, but then he didn't check. He just tried, and then he found the middle way. Yeah. I'm not telling you to go too far, but don't check. That's important. You know, if you, every time you feel a little sick, lay down, one day you may think, well, this is boring, you know. One person once said to me, how can I practice more? I'm very lazy, you know, so even I want to get up and do 300 bows, I don't do it, and I want to sit half an hour every day and I don't do it. How can I overcome laziness? And I don't know why I said this, but I said, you're not lazy enough. You got to be 100% lazy. Like just lay in bed all day long and be really lazy. When you have to pee or shit, don't get up. Middle way will appear. Really be lazy. Don't do anything. Don't go eat. Don't call your mother, bring me food. Don't get up to go to the bathroom. Don't clean yourself up after you go to the bathroom in your bed. Be lazy. We're sort of, you know, we choose. But the worst is thinking a lot about it. That's called checking. Won't help. Any more questions? So, our practice is moment to moment. What am I doing right now? Luckily, you don't have to think about your life, right? You don't have to think, oh, what do I do next? You know, if we stop the Dharma talk now, Ipsum will probably say, okay, we're free until 4:30, then it's dinner time. You already know 6 o'clock in the Buddha Hall. You know, sitting at 7. The schedule's right there. And there's some free time where you can spend a lot of time thinking, checking, and holding. But the schedule's all set up. How to behave to each other. The temple rules are there. So the whole thing's all set up. Now, reflect on my own mind. What's happening? And practice turns into practice. If you do mantra, do mantra. You know, even if you're laying down and resting, do mantra. And you can see what your mind's doing, whether you want to do it or not do it, or how much you're thinking. Same thing. You're sitting. You know what's going on. You can see what's going on. And then just try to bring it back to right now. So we have this incredible opportunity where the whole situation's all set up. It's like a boat going someplace. And we just get on the boat. We don't have to make it go. We don't have to set it up and make any decisions. We just learn to address each moment the the correct way, correct situation, correct function, correct relationship. You don't need to think about that particularly either. You just have to do it. So ask yourself at any moment, what am I doing right now? And you can see your habit. And then don't just follow your habit. Use that moment to practice. If it's rest and you're going to rest, rest. You know, if you've decided you're going to go up to and you've signed up, you know, the Sanshengak, and you're going to do half an hour chanting at this time, go up and do the chanting. When the muktak hits, come to the next thing. Do it, do it, do it. That's the best way to help your life. And that's the only way to help whatever the future is for me, you know. That's the only way is to return to what am I doing right now? And then do it. Do the correct thing, whatever it is. And when you're sitting too, your mind goes off in fantasies or dreams, bring it back. Sometimes strongly, sometimes gently, sometimes maybe it doesn't come back. You know, chanting, we chant, and you see, after you learn the chants, that sometimes you can chant with your mouth and be thinking something else. So that time, try to capture what that thinking energy and redirect it to the sound, to making the sound, to hearing others. And that's cleaning your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And Six Patriarchs said, when you purify your eyes, ears, nose, body, and mind, that is saving all beings. And then naturally it appears. You know, Beauvoisin's in the hospital, and she sees what's happening in front of her. You know, some people in the hospital, they never see what's going on. They're so caught up in their own thing, whatever it is. Like that story of that woman. You know, when we met, she said to me, we met 18 years ago. And I said, really? She said, remember when Song Sansanim was in the intensive care, right across from him was a bed with a very sick man. And I said, I remember that man. I remember seeing him. His skin was so dark. And I thought, oh my God, this guy is so ill. And she said, remember this crazy woman who came in one day and was screaming for the doctors and nurses because his bed wasn't there? And I said, yeah. She said, that was me. And she looked over at us who were with Song Sansanim, and Song Sansanim, you know, the bed was kind of pulled up a little bit. And she said, Song Sansanim gave me the sweetest smile, and all of you gave this crazy screaming woman this sweet smile, and it kind of caught her for a moment. And then the doctors finally came and told her where they had moved her husband and everything. And like Beauvoisin said, the next day, sitting by her husband, she saw on the television, and she saw Song Sansanim's face. This big monk died. And she was like, the day before he dies, he and his family smile, give this gentle, sweet smile to this crazy woman. And it blew her mind. And she said, because her husband stayed sick 2 more years and she had 3 young children, you know, she didn't have time to think about anything. But after about 10 years, you know, her husband died after 2 years. She had to struggle, take care of her kids, raise them. After about 10, 14 years, I think, the kids had a little bit grown up. She suddenly remembered that day in the hospital. And she was Christian. She still is Christian, she said. But she was thinking, how did they have that mind? You know, to be so kind to this crazy lady when they're the teacher himself and their teacher is dying. He died the next day. And she started going to a Buddhist temple and studying Buddhism. And she may start to come to our Taejong Center to learn meditation in the future. We'll see what happens. But, you know, it hit her. And then recently, as her kids got more independent, she wanted to come here. And she saw that I was living here. So then she wanted to come and say hello. It's a great story. we were just being our natural selves, you know, because we had seen her husband. Wow, this guy was so ill. And then this crazy woman is screaming, and I don't remember thinking it. I just feel like, oh, I'm so sorry for you, you know, and we just kind of smile at her. And so if we just try, and then naturally, and we catch ourselves when we do something that's really not helpful for us or others. We can begin to see it. But the only way is try. And one thing that always helped me a lot is quite early on, I heard Zen Master Songsan say, correct direction and try mind is the correct way. And then he said, one day you'll realize that is enlightenment. So I realized it's not just that there's some enlightenment to get to. The moment that we have a correct direction, one, understand my true nature, and benefit others in order to benefit others, and we try, that moment is enlightenment. But because we come and go out of that all the time, we don't have faith in it. And then one day we have complete faith in it. That's what they call enlightenment, you know. But you've been doing it all along, you know. Buddha too. You ever go outside in the early morning when you guys go up to the Buddha hall and look and you see a star? You know, I used to do this, and I see a star and I think, Buddha saw a star, I got enlightenment. I'm looking right at the star, but nothing's happening, you know. What is the difference? You know, he saw a star, I see a star. How come we say, he got enlightenment, you know? Let's just try mine, the direction, and try. So just do it. That's all. Thank you.